Tommy Paul's dream at the US Open came crashing down in the most heartbreaking way possible. What looked like a night of triumph turned into a scene of exhaustion, collapse, and tears. Fans inside Arthur Ashe Stadium could hardly believe what they were witnessing. One of America's brightest hopes, the number 14 seed, fighting until his last breath, only to see it all slip away in the cruelest fifth set against Alexander Bublik. The match had everything: drama, tension, emotion, and in the end, heartbreak. Tommy Paul walked onto the court with confidence. He had history on his side. He had beaten Alexander Bublik in all 3 of their previous encounters. The crowd believed this would be another victory, another step toward a deep run at his home slam. And at first, the energy was electric. Tommy looked sharp, his footwork crisp, his forehand popping. But from the very first ball, Bublik showed he wasn't the same player Tommy had dominated before. His serve was booming, unrelenting, a wall that Tommy couldn't break through. Time after time, Paul pressed, but Bublik fired ace after ace, leaving him shaking his head. The opening set went to a tiebreak, and that's where Tommy looked ready to stamp his authority. He dug deep, he fought hard, but at the last moment Bublik stole it 7-6. The crowd groaned. Tommy clenched his fist, knowing this wasn't going to be easy. The second set was pure war. Every point felt like a final. Tommy was hustling, chasing down shots, pushing his body after that grueling second-round marathon against Nuno Borges that had ended past midnight. His legs were heavy, but his heart was on fire. He dragged Bublik into another tiebreak, and this time he refused to let it go. Tommy roared as he leveled the match at 1-all. The stadium erupted, chanting his name that I end the third set, though signs of trouble began to show. Bublik's serve remained untouchable. He won over 80% of his first serve points. Tommy couldn't find a single break all night. His return game just wasn't enough against the Kazakhs' rockets. And slowly, Bublik pulled away to take the third 6-3. Tommy bent over at the baseline, sweat dripping, fatigue setting in. He called for the trainer. He needed treatment, and you could see it, his body was screaming. But champions fight, and Tommy Paul is a fighter. The fourth set was agony and ecstasy. Every rally tested his lungs, his legs, his spirit. He looked spent, but somehow, someway, he found the strength to push it to another tiebreak. And what a tiebreak it was. The crowd held its breath as Paul threw himself into every shot. When he finally sealed it, forcing a deciding fifth set, the stadium exploded. Tommy lifted his arms to the sky, his face red with exhaustion, but his heart refusing to quit. This was the moment where legends are made. One final set to decide it all. But then, the nightmare began. The fifth set was brutal. Bublik, fresh and full of confidence, jumped out immediately. His serve was impenetrable, and his ground strokes clean. Tommy tried, but the gas tank was empty. He had nothing left to give. The rallies shortened. His legs slowed. His shots lacked their usual sting. Game after game slipped away. In just 28 minutes. The dream was gone. The scoreboard read 6-1 in the fifth. Alexander Bublik raised his arms in triumph, while Tommy Paul slumped in his chair, devastated. But the story didn't end on the court. Behind the scenes, the devastation continued. Photos emerged of Tommy collapsing in the locker room after the match. His body giving out, his spirit crushed. It was the rawest image of an athlete who gave everything only to fall just short. Fans around the world reacted with heartbreak, sending messages of love and support. For America, it was a painful reminder of how cruel this sport can be. Because now, with Paul gone, only one American man remains in the draw: Taylor Fritz. The hopes of the nation rest on his shoulders. And for Tommy, this was his earliest US Open exit since 2022. For a man who had built so much momentum, who dreamed of lifting the trophy in front of his home fans, it was a bitter pill to swallow. But let's not forget the courage. Tommy Paul battled through nearly 4 hours against one of the biggest servers in the game, on the back of a late-night five-setter just days before. His body screamed stop, but his heart said go. He forced it to the edge to a fifth set when most players would have folded long before. That's the mark of a warrior. That's the reason fans love him. And maybe, just maybe, this heartbreaking defeat will fuel him. The collapse in the locker room wasn't just physical. It was the emotional weight of lost opportunity. Tommy knows he was close. He knows he had the weapons. He knows the margins were razor thin. This loss will sting. It will haunt him in the short term, but it could also be the fire that drives him to come back stronger. For now, though, the US Open will remember this as one of the most emotional, heartbreaking battles of 2025. A night where Tommy Paul gave everything, but the cruel game of tennis showed no mercy. The scoreline will say, Alexander Bublik defeated Tommy Paul 7-6, 6-7, 6-3, 6-7, 6-1. But what it won't show is the pain, the courage, the fight, the collapse. What it won't show is the American crowd crying out for their man, urging him on, only to walk out of the stadium in stunned silence when it was over. Tommy Paul's dream ended in heartbreak, but his spirit, his fight, his courage, that will live on. Because sometimes, even in defeat, a player wins the hearts of millions. And that's exactly what Tommy Paul did.